Luca Nation, welcome back to the Fractional Report, episode 574. In today's episode, we're going to go over the market, the fractional market, and there's some auctions that closed. We had Mint 25 with Leland's and Collectable, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Cage will share his opinions. But honestly, man, the topic du jour, it felt like Space Jam, the beginning of Space Jam where Sean Bradley, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, they get their powers taken from them.
Yep.
The Chiefs went into
Space Jam.
How do you make it this up? So, Cage, I don't know a quarterback who started his 4-year career better than Mahomes. Is that fair to say? Like, he has been as hot as they get. Then this year, he hit his first rough patch.
Depends what your measurements are. There are a lot
MVP Super Bowl.
There are a lot of quarterbacks who have won one Super Bowl. Joe Flacco, Trent Dilfer. There's plenty of QBs that won one Super Bowl.
In the first 4 years, they were MVP in the Super Bowl, and they won
the MVP. The MVP part is pretty nice. I guess where I'm going with it is, it's a small window, and it's amazing that he's been to 4 straight AFC Championship games. But to get there, everything kind of has to break right. 13 seconds, you name it, just to get to the thing. And then when you're there to win one, I guess where I'm going with this is the narrative of this guy had a shot to be the next Brady. And we even talked about it last week because it broke right. Today didn't break right. Today didn't break right for the Chiefs.
I think they poisoned him.
By the way, he's not joking. I was getting texts. What happened? What did they do to him at halftime? They poisoned the Kansas City Chiefs team. This is amazing. Amazing.
292 yards in the first half. Yep. You're driving down with the chance to go up by 18 points. You're on the 1 yard line and you're running screen passes to your wide receiver that take the most time off the clock. You could just sneak the ball.
That was the biggest play. That was a momentum play. It gave the Bengals going into half everything they needed because, as luck would have it, an 11-point lead at half was exactly what the Chiefs' lead was the last time the Bengals came back and beat the Chiefs. So it's all they needed. The Bengals were at halftime saying, we have them right where we want them. This was exactly the recipe to beating this team that we had last time. And the Chiefs were like, I can't believe what we just did there. We just gave them the momentum. And, how do we not get in the end zone? You got Mahomes calling timeout like Chris Webber out there when he doesn't have one. It's fun stuff. It's fun stuff. And you just say, they just got poisoned. They just poisoned the team.
The sideline reporter, was like, oh, yeah, Mahomes said, give me one more shot at throwing this thing in the end zone. And then he throws a screen pass a yard behind line of scrimmage to Tyreek Hill. Fine, forget it. 11-point lead, you get the ball after half. They had 32 yards the entire second half up until the final drive. So look, 290 and then 32. You don't make if I was a Mahomes holder, I would be furious, man. If I was holding high-end Mahomes cards, because I know it's going to have such a lasting legacy. It's going to have a stink to it the next 3 months. Do you know what I mean? Like his market, it's so frustrating because he's had such a good 4-year run. And that was a very frustrating game to watch. Very frustrating game to watch.
I get it. I understand what you're saying. The flip side is, on the good side, if you're a Mahomes fan, no one else has done what he did to start their career off, and it's just the start. And we were just talking about Mahomes in one of our other episodes. You made a great point that, he's done this first 4 years, kind of like Brady did, and then Brady had a little lull and then started winning again. The difference, of course, is that, Brady won a bunch in the beginning and then won a bunch later on. Right now, you got Mahomes winning, one. So listen, he's a great QB. The prices of some of his items are priced like he's going to be an all-time great. And he still may very well get there, right? And let's not say he's not. What is his body of work is very impressive. But football is nuts, man. Football is very, very difficult. And, they would have made history today had they won the game. Because, no team has ever won back-to-back playoff overtime games. Never been done. Very difficult to do that. They would have been the first one to do it, and they didn't, and they lost. So, I mean, it's just, it is.
You know, he didn't even throw into the end zone once on that last drive when they could have won the touchdown. He ran. He
Madden,
ran.
Right? It's a game of inches. That's it.
He just ran like he was.
Well,
Cage,
some
question.
of the plays were odd. He was like running backwards, and he was, falling and dumping, and I don't know what the heck he was doing back there. But let's get to. I want to see the cards because we are in the Collectables fractional report before the opening bell here. One of my favorite, probably my favorite episode. I mean, I love doing this. You got the hat. It's Sunday. We got football all day. We get to talk about Mahomes.
Well, I bring this up.
Let's go.
I bring this up not just because I have insane venom. It actually matters because right before kickoff, let me look at the time, 2:01 p.m. Kickoff was 3 p.m. You have so this card got a bid. First off, beautiful patch, flawless, out of 5, Mahomes, BGS 9, Emerald. So this card, I believe, received an offer last night, and then today it received an even higher offer, right? And this is before kickoff. So it's really interesting. How's the psychology play? Can the offeree retract the offer? Or does the loss now kind of weigh, and the majority is going to choose to let the card go? So it's actually really, So it's really interesting how that's going to play out. I think they're going to accept because people are jittery and panicky and annoyed, just like I
am. That's interesting. I mean, I thought of that with that card coming in. There's so many good offers. I mean, LeBron card got accepted, right? We could talk about that. We can kind of go through the week. Some interesting cards, some interesting stuff. What did you see? What did you see besides the Mahomes offer? And I mean, it's an interesting take also, right? Like, are you telling me if you were holding that card now, you would vote to accept because of what happened here?
Well, I'm annoyed. Can you tell? So I'm very, very emotional, and I would make emotional decisions. But yeah, I really would, because I think Mahomes cards have already been steamed up. So they've had their run. And then they have a lot of, not issues, a lot of question marks of who's coming back next year. So I would. It's a long spring, summer, and preseason, but I'm impatient when it comes to this stuff.
You're impatient when it comes to almost everything. So what did you see over the last week?
As soon as the game was over, Cage, I bought 2 Joe Burrow cards just out of spite. What did I say? You're not going to like what I saw, though. This is where I'm going. It's kind of ancillary sports, but we see with Nadal, these tennis icons do have a moment in time. So I've talked about Nadal. I mean, incredible 5-set comeback. But the card today that I'm going to talk about is on the previous results of the Serena card. This week's the Serena Net Pro basket actually went up 17.5%. And that's because I think her Sports Illustrated card broke 100,000, and her other Net Pro glossy broke, I think it was right around that 100K mark. So you saw the Net Pro kind of as a lagging measure follow. And I think sometimes with these out of sight, out of mind, Tiger's also interesting. You can really dip by these ancillary sports on the eve of, is she coming back for the French Open? Will she be playing this year? And I know you're not a big Serena fan because you said she was complaining during that whole Osaka thing.
That's right.
But she's the greatest women's tennis player of all time, and that was interesting to see her cards go up 17%, and even more so that her cards now demand 100,000 for the Sports Illustrated one. There's a market for her stuff. That's what stuck out. Let me go over some data. So market's pretty flat. Modern was flat, down 0.5%. The only negative sport this week, which is football, which makes sense. Basketball up 1%, baseball up 2.5%, golf 0.3%, soccer up 14.5%, and again, tennis led the way with 17.5% because of Serena. A few kind of notable metrics, and you could stop me. I'm going to riff off of it.
Go for it.
Giannis 48-point game sneakers continued their recent positive run. That's kind of surprising, but I guess that's looking kind of like a price discovery. How it's really difficult to price that item. So it's up 10% this week. The previous weeks it was up 43% and 16%. And the whole kind of thing there is if you kind of look at the recent auctions, whether it's Leland's, Golden, across the board, game-worn sneakers have been performing really well. So maybe there's not other game-worn sneakers of Giannis, but it's kind of, when you look at comps in that space, you might go, okay, what is a game-worn Luka shoe worth? And what is a Steph Curry game-worn sneaker worth? And kind of try to multiple from there. So we're seeing some really strong performance there. On the completely other side, Kobe rookie game-worn sneakers that were signed slid. Keep in mind, Kobe memorabilia as a whole ran up a ton a few months ago. So it isn't very alarming. And in fact, if you say, if you look at a heritage auction, ended for 192,000, hideous shoes. I'm going to pull these up. You guys are not going to believe that someone as charming and charismatic as Kobe Bryant would play basketball in these. This is something Cage would play in.
Oh, those are nice. I like those. Look like what I used to wear. I buy those.
This is the old Adidas equipment brand with the little, it's kind of cool looking thing in here. But these sold for $188,000.
Oh, I guess I didn't buy them to pay less. Those are that's pretty nice.
Where the market cap on the Kobe. No, it's not.
Oh, maybe black and silver. Actually. Raider fan. Black and silver Raiders, baby. The Raiders.
Black and yellow. You know that song?
Well, listen, yes, I do. I love that stuff. So listen, a couple of fun little headlines I see out there, and we can talk about some cards, and we can talk about some other fun stuff, right? So, you talk about your blue chip cards, right? You went a little ancillary. This is a major sport, but, not a lot of people collect it unless you're listening to us in Canada. But I watched the Gretzky 79 O-Pee-Chee again drop, right? So this is one we talked about last week with a slight bump up. It was down almost 6% this week after being up 1, down 2, flat, down 2, up 6, down 2. I mean, the prior 11 weeks, it's been mostly down. And this is a real interesting card, right? The market cap on this now is down to 124.6. The most recent sale we talked about was the 156 sale of Robert Edwards back in December, right? So you would think this card is now 20% below the most recent comp. But two things to note on this, right? Before you go assuming that this card appears to present as one of the better arbitrage opportunities. I read that wrong.
You've had lawyer talk all week, Cage. You've got lawyer talk on your mind all week.
This card here, it's one of the more condition-sensitive cards out there, and you have a wide variety of pricing because of that, right? So it's easy to compare that 126 to the REA auction. But if you look at the two sales before that, right, you'll see that in Golden in October 27th, one sold for 137. And the one before that, also in Golden on August 11th, sold for 118. So when you use those as the two comps, this market value of this one actually sits right between those two. So yes, the most recent sale at REA is 156, which makes this one look like the market cap of 124, a little low. If it continues a slide, then now you're talking about it's below almost all comps. That 118 is the only one that's low. You go before that, and it was significantly higher, right? Because now we're going back into the first quarter of the year when everything was kind of really moving up. But it's a very condition-sensitive card. Everybody looks at the condition of this one. It's just one to keep an eye on. I'm not calling it a buy presently, but, I want to make sure you have all the information on it. It is going down. It now is one of those cards where, it's definitely lower than the most recent comp. I have one I want to talk to you about because it looks like it's falling. It looks like it's a thing. And we talk about him all the time, right? I saw a great post on Instagram from one of my favorite elder statesmen, one of my favorite curmudgeons in the hobby, Brooklyn Vintage Cards, who basically just buys all the Brady tie-dyes. And he said, hey, there's a 20 or 25X in the hobby, and everybody's missing it, but you got to have the stones for it, and it's Zion Williamson. You buy his stuff now, and he will be back, whether it's late this year or next year, and you're going to see him dropping 30-something points and being dominant out there, even if it's for a little bit of time. But when that happens, people are going to want his cards again. And no one wants them now. So it's just one person's take. I bring it up because I like reading that guy's stuff. And I bring it up because the Zion Blue Prism, not PSA 10, because the one on Collectable is a BGS 10, dropped again this week. And we talked about 3 weeks ago, down 14%, then down 5%, then down 5% last week. It dropped almost 25%. It dropped 24% this week, right? To a market cap of 11,890, right? Now, A PSA 10 copy sold with PWCC for $16,800. This is a BGS 10, right? We talked about I know Ja is passing Zion this year. He's doing great stuff. We talked about the blue recently and looked at the card ladder value of it. And the card ladder value of a PSA 10 Ja is basically in line, a little bit less than what a Zion BGS 10 is going for. So is it oversold, to use technical terms like you like to throw out there? Is this a card now that is just getting beaten up because people just want to be out on Zion? Does it start to look attractive?
Well, it has nothing to do with Zion, honestly, because if PWC's, so we're all emotional, right? And we all add our color and flavor. And as a Zion investor, you're not sitting pretty this year. You're kind of uncertain about the future, all that stuff.
Right.
But that doesn't matter in this, because the PWCC auction, which is a PSA 10, just sold at 16. So that's a comp. That's some benchmark of where the market is now. Now, there's some variability. You could do plus minus 10, 15%, but it's at 11,000. So what's that? That's a 40% haircut with what most people would agree that is a better grade and a more marketable and a more rare grade. So I don't know, Gage. I don't think Zion plays this year. So I think that people oversell a little bit. You're glaring.
You think it comes down even more? No, I like it. I like the analysis.
Not this card. Not this card. I don't think this card comes down anymore. The National Treasure is the one with like the USA stuff on it, maybe.
Yeah, like the Stars and Stripes ones and those kind of things. I get that. But I mean,
I think this card actually bounces back up. I'm wondering who's going to be the buyer, right? It takes someone with cajones. But honestly, an investment like this is one I wouldn't overextend on. It would be, let's say my entire budget or my entire investment portfolio is $10,000. Put $100 in, right? Because if you're right, you're right. And if you're wrong, okay, well, you still, what's the downside? So this is one where it's like, if you could switch off that like yelling brain saying, he's not going to be back, he's overweight, he's never going to play again, all that stuff. And you just think of it as purely an investor trader. This is a real opportunity because your downside is very limited at this point with using the recent comp for PWCC. And your upside, if you hit really, really, really well. So $50, $100, like very small percentage of your money, it would be a good bet.
I like it. It's just, I think you hit the nail right on the head. Honestly,
you're teeing me up. You're throwing me softballs. You're throwing me meatballs. I'm gonna hit them out.
It's a rare enough card. I mean, it's one that I looked at this week and said, "This is a buyout candidate." It only takes one Zion fan, and if somebody was willing to pay $16,000, think of the underbidder on the PWCC PSA 10, right? They were willing to pay 16 and change for PSA 10. They probably just don't even know that this card is out here.
Correct.
Right? And they can now give a 20% easy bump and still get now a BGS, and try to take this off the market. If I were the holders of it now, the people who are holding this probably vote anything down. Because the people who are still holding this are the ones who still believe in Zion and believe this card is going back up. 1,000%. So it might be tough to get a buyout or approved on this one, but it is what it is. So that's a fun one.
There's two things to this, too, Cage. Shoot. The market's been a little bit down too on Prism cards. Yep. So you win both ways. Even if the market kind of starts trending back up, even forget if Zion doesn't step on the court again for the season, you still have that thing. And I think next September, October, you see this at a $22,000 card.
I'm with you. I think you're right. So 2 vintage items that I wanted to talk about, right? We talked about both of these last week. The 53 Topps Jackie Robinson PSA 8 was up big. We talked about this card, and it was up big. It's up 66%, a market cap of $64,000. But the Heritage recent result, and remember, it's just one result, but the recent result, Heritage, also PSA 8, was 94.9. So even with this huge run-up, $64,000, it's still well below the recent comp of 94. It's one that also could run, because even if you want to make an argument this is a lesser copy, or the aesthetics of this one don't meet what you like. Remember, everyone's different. Some people are centering, some people are registration, some people are okay with a 60/40, some people top to bottom. There's a whole bunch of of different ways of doing it. But when you compare 64 to 94, that's a pretty wide gap. And a similar thing going on with, we talked about the 33 Ruth Gowdy SGC 8. was flat week over week, basically sitting in a market cap of 190. We've talked about the heritage comp of 288, which is significantly higher than that 190. But we said, hey, not every 8 is the same. We talk about this with everything. The Gretzky, talk about it with Jackie Robinson, especially with vintage, right? Because you're not talking about 10, 10, 10. These are, high grades for vintage 8s, but an SGC 7 just sold for a record price of $126,000 in a recent heritage auction. So now, not only do you have the 8 at Heritage at 288, but you now have a floor of the grade below it moving up close to what this card is sitting at. We're at 190 for the 8. The 7 came in at 126, right? So even if it's not as good of an 8, it's better than the 7, right? So it's just interesting to watch these comps and try to also, pay attention to the comps that are, are setting a floor for it, right? So, it's just a fun one, right? That Heritage 288 was in November. You had the more recent auction from Heritage that had the 126 for an SGC 7.
Cage, can I ask you?
Yeah, sure.
So,
please.
With modern players, modern cards, injuries, off the field stuff, and performance typically is what drives how an asset does. With this stuff, what drives these cards? People say, put your money in Mantle, it goes up every year, right? Over 10 years, you'll look back, it's worth it. Why?
Yeah. Because those are like your blue chip safer investment items for cards, right? So these are the cards we're talking about here, Ruth, Jackie Robinson. These are cards that if your modern stuff is going to be worth something, these have to be worth something. Just like we talked about with Peter from SGC, right? Every modern collector, every vintage collector, those cards they're collecting were modern at one point. Every modern collector now should know that what they're collecting as modern becomes vintage. People tell me I'm a vintage collector. Well, half the cards I own, I bought when I was a kid. They were modern to me. Don Mattingly with his mustache was a modern card.
You have cards, honestly, Cage. What's cool about you? You have cards from literally kind of like every single era. From you have like Babe. I think you have Babe Ruth. I know you have Mantle. Then you have 1980s. You have the Mattingly Bonds. I think you have a Bonds Tiffany. You have 90s with those inserts. I think you have a Shaq Beam team. So you cover every era. I think you disappeared on me. Let me go through some of the other data as you leave and come back in. So, Luca Nation, let me talk a little bit with you guys about the IPOs. So, in this upcoming week, 3 IPOs. And it's crazy. We're already in the month of February. So, let's start with this one because there was all this back and forth, right? There was rumors from Adam Schefter that Tom Brady had decided to retire. Then his dad came out and said, well, hold up. He's not retiring yet. Please wait. So now with this IPO and auctions and Brady cards, it'd be interesting to see how the market's going to react. So on Thursday, Tom Brady NFL debut full ticket, not autograph, PSA 7 opens up with a market cap of 107,000. What's up, Kate? So real quick, I don't know, you just froze, man. But I'm going through this week's IPO.
That's weird. Okay.
I'm going through this week's IPOs, and specifically I started with Tom Brady because Adam Schefter reported he retired. Tom Brady's dad came out and said, wait, hold up, that's not the truth. So now with like auctions and IPOs, what's going to happen to his market, right? I think if he retired, his market, people would have wanted to buy, right? But now you're kind of in this uncertainty. So I'm curious to see how the market responds. So Thursday, NFL debut ticket for Tom Brady, 107,000.
I'll get back to Brady. Go through your IPOs, but I want to get back to Brady because that was one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Luka Doncic game used sneakers open for early access, 82,000 market cap. Going to be really similar and interesting to see how the Giannis 48-point game sneakers in their recent run-up of 50% in the last 3 weeks impacts that, right? Because you'd think they sell out way faster. Wednesday, Reggie Jackson, game used Oakland A's jersey, 157,750, nothing retained. Brady, what do you think? What caught your eye before we go into details here about some of the stuff?
One of the ones that I think could be viewed as a nice play on the Collectable app, and it's the Brady Contenders basket, right? So you can look at the you can pull it up if you like. Remember, this is a Brady Contenders BGS 9 basket of 2 of them, right? 2 of them. It's got a market cap right now of $135,000. Someone's getting some ice. Get some ice, pal.
Sure, it's on.
Wonderful. So 135,000. So do a little quick math. 135 divided by 2 is exactly 67.5 per.
Yeah.
Well done. 67.5. Now this particular card we talked about it last week. This basket, because it went down last week from $50 a share to $9.95 a share. It went down again now in the week after Brady's eliminated, $9.95 a share to $7.50 a share, which from a percentage basis down 24% to a market cap of 135. Recent comps on this one: 109, 108, 95, 103, 111. That's the last 5 comps, right? So you want to say 1 looks nicer, 2 looks nicer, that's fine. But all of those numbers are well north of 67.5. Those numbers I just gave you as comps, that's not a comp for a basket of 2. That's a comp for 1 card. This particular item here, this offering, has 2 of them in a basket. Price is 67.5. There's a lot of room there. Now, what's fun about it
with the Bowman Chrome too, right? The BGS 10.
Yep. BGS
that one's
10.
Down. Keep going. I apologize, Cage.
No. Listen, you're nailing it. I mean, what I want to know from you is that we can look at what that Bowman Chrome did, right? There was a recent sale of another one of those Bowman Chromes, right? 36,000 in PWCC, right? So I'm looking at 5 prior comps on the on the contenders, right? And we've looked at Brady's charts. From last year. They're straight like this. One of the few cards that started going up in the first quarter last year and has continued to go up because he won a Super Bowl, because he was back, because it looked like he might win another one. He led the league in passing yards and touchdowns. Front runner for MVP, and no reason for his cards not to go down. But then he loses, right? And there's retirement talk, and the cards have gone down. And you could make an argument, at least, that a recent sale of that Bowman Chrome in PWCC that just ended, 36,000, significantly less than the 45 that this is at. So do we see these cards of Brady continue to go down a little bit? Do we pump the brakes a little bit and say those 5 comps that I gave you for the the Brady Contenders BGS 9, those are comps where he was still flying high, and there was a little bit built into that of he might win an MVP and he might win another Super Bowl, and and that kind of stuff is, and what we're seeing now trading last week is more appropriate to what the market thinks. What say you? You had a great answer on Zion, but Zion or Brady are about the other ends of the spectrum.
So you think I'm a one-trick pony?
No. I'm just curious what you think about Brady.
I try to stay relevant, Cage. I try to, give plays, 12 ETH plays that go to 25 in NFTs. I try to watch basketball.
Thank you for that.
And tell advantage of that. Look out for the Grizz. This team is really doing some things. I'll tell you with Brady, be patient, because I want to see what the market does. Sometimes you don't have to be in a market to watch a market. And I would actually argue most times. So watch this market. Try to understand how it behaves. And I think that information will really help you out, because here's the thing. It's not going to go to the moon. There might be some lagging people buying, but I don't think that's sustained buying pressure. So what I would say is watch, be patient, see how this whole thing unfolds. See if some people get a little bit anxious, waiting for Brady's announcement and sell too cheap. See if there's overcorrections week to week, and kind of dollar cost average into them. I'll give you an example. Let's say that Brady Bowman Chrome drops 35% this week. And you're like, I've kind of wanted to get into Brady for a while. Okay, I'm going to put $500 fractional. Use 50 of that week. Dollar cost average into it. Okay? And watch that market. Be a participant and dollar cost average, and watch the market as it plays out. That would be my advice for how to play this Brady market, because I don't think there's going to be a ton of movement up. And I think there might be some sellers who want liquidity and sell out.
Interesting. It's a card that I passed on at the National at 14.
The Chrome?
Yeah.
That's not your type of card. It's too shiny for you.
Yeah, I don't like shiny. I don't like shiny.
You don't
You're
like shiny?
100% right. I don't like shiny.
The only shine that I'd like to see is from the gel that I put in my hair every month.
Shiny. Okay, so let me just throw one out there, and then we can wrap this up. You can chat about whatever you like. Vintage baseball, right? We've seen a lot of these vintage baseball.
Myself or to you?
I have. To what?
Do I check to myself or to you?
I don't know what you're saying.
I don't know what I'm saying either. I still am livid over the second half of that Chiefs game. I can't believe people aren't rioting in the streets. Imagine being the best team with the best quarterback, with the most talent. I know I'm exaggerating, but like I'm just trying to put playing at home, dominating, and then just not coming out for the second half. They were poisoned. It was the flu game. Someone delivered pizza. Someone delivered that fake, like literally. They stayed in the locker room.
You play with fire, 2 weeks in a row, you're gonna get burnt. I don't think they even belong there. The Bills had them beat, and you had that 13-second mumbo jumbo. I mean, they got lucky, and then this week they kind of.
It wasn't mumbo jumbo. He threw a dagger, a perfect pass.
How do you listen? You want to talk? You said this week is fixed. How do Buffalo just let Kelsey get a free run untouched for 18 yards down the field? Like how does that happen?
That was an incredible game.
It was an
incredible game with two teams playing at their best.
And so was this. This was overtime. This was a good time.
No, this was two teams playing at their best, and then one of the teams just didn't come out in their second half. It's not like Cincinnati. Like,
listen, you sound like a Chiefs fan. You should go buy some Mahomes cards, man. You sound like a Chiefs fan. You went and bought Burrow
Andy
cards.
Reid puzzles me. I think Andy Reid has it in with the NFL office. I think he's like their Mick Foley, so to speak. He goes just far enough to not go that far. I don't
Mankind, Mick Foley. Well, I don't know what you're saying either, but it's a long day. So here you go, guys. Vintage baseball. Now, this could be taken one of two ways. When I started buying cards again heavily several years ago, I'm a Yankee fan, and I started buying Yankee stuff, right? And I was like, let me buy Yogi Berra. Let me buy his Bowman rookie card. It's got a real low pop, and this. And it's gone up in value since I bought it, but it has completely missed the run of any other card, vintage, modern, you name it. Because when we talk about this stuff, right, we talk about supply, which is low on that card, and demand, which also is lower than the demand for a lot of other stuff. You got to be a Yankee fan. You got to know, Yogi Berra from the 40s and 50s. Great player, won a lot. You can't. I put his resume against anybody. We talked about it on our show, right? So why am I bringing that up, right? Because it takes a certain kind of investor to put money in a Yogi Berra type of card, right? It's somebody who's not looking for quick returns. It's somebody who thinks, all right, I'm willing to ride this. It's not going to have a downside. He can't do anything to hurt his career, but as the market grows, this will most likely grow with it. It's not going to multiple, but it will over time, right? So one of the cards I looked at but never bought, I think it's a gorgeous card. If you want to pull it up, you can. It's the Roger Maris PSA 9. It's his rookie from
my pull-up feature today, Gage. I'm going to message Collectable, but my pull-up feature isn't working today.
Okay,
I'm going to message Collectable. I apologize.
Okay, that's fine. So, guys, it's a really cool, colorful, like orange background Roger Maris card, like a really nice card. He happened to be on the Cleveland Indians, at the time. And this card is one I wanted to buy, as a Yankee fan. I never did. When I was looking to buy it, and it's good, it's helpful, right? A couple of years ago, I was looking to buy one for let's call it $8,000 when I got back into the hobby, right? Never pulled the trigger, but that's what the card was at, right? The card was sitting at, I think 8s in 2018, 19, end of 17. And he was always relevant from a home run chase perspective. That's who McGuire and Sosa were chasing and the whole deal. If you look at his card, it ran a little bit, right? 2018, you can see this is a PSA 9 for 10, one for 9 at the end of 18, one for 8,400 in July of 19. Again, one sold for 10,000 in early 2020. And then 2021, when cards started moving up a little bit, the first quarter, 19, 18.5, 22. In April, Robert Edwards sold for 27.6, right? And then 18. So what you saw on this is, it moves up, it takes a little bit of a breather, it moves up, takes a little bit of a breather. Now, something that you put $10,000 in, at the time, that 8,000, for comparison, I was looking at the same time at Tom Brady SPX rookies, the SP Authentic rookie, and they were 5,000. And the thought was, it was like 4 or 5. Should I buy 2 Bradys or one Maris? And the Brady, obviously, is now $100,000 card. So Brady like this, Maris like this. But still, if you put $8,000 a couple years ago, and the card, is trading at 22, 27, 18, 21, whatever the story is, it is moving. A little bit of these, but it is over time. Broader scope. If you're that type of an investor, it's a card that does one of these. It IPO'd on Collectable at $27,000, which was in line with those comps from the first quarter. The ones that were 22 and 27. The card sold then again for 18 in May, and because there's only 3 dozen of these in PSA 9 and none higher, right? It's not a card that comes up that often for sale. This week, the share price went from $4.30 to $2.95. That's a pretty big drop, and the market price is now $16,000, which is lower than any sales price on this card since 2020. Okay, and if you want a recent comp on this card in the Heritage auction from November, which seems to have some pretty high comps, if I'm going to throw it out there, but the November Heritage auction. The last sale on this card was $22.9. All right, so we're now talking about $16,000 for a market price, valuation for the one on Collectable. It's not for everyone, right? And it's not the most liquid thing in the world, and that's probably why you saw it go from $4.30 to $2.95. But it's one of those cards that IPO'd at a recent peak. That doesn't mean it's the overall peak. When things move up. This card also had a peak, 5 years ago, 6 years. It probably had a peak, whenever there's home run chases. But what happens is it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, and it makes newer highs each time. And you look at this card, by the way, guys, the numbers I'm giving you, I pull up PSA's website, put this card in, right in the pop report, 1958 tops, Maris, pull up PSA 9, APR, and it'll give you the auction results. All the numbers I just gave you, they're all right there for free for you to look at. And the last sale on this for almost basically 23,000, 7,000 higher than the 16 market cap it's at right now. We're talking about 40% off. So it's just one that caught my eye because it IPO'd at a high point and basically has traded down slowly until this past week when it traded down pretty sharply. So I would not be surprised, if bargain hunters on the platform saw this one, realized, it's a value against recent comps, and it may see a little bit of an uptick. Just, not everybody's looking at Roger Maris cards.
Can I go into something real quick and tell me what you think about this, okay? And we'll wrap with this. So, not only if you guys go to Collectable, I'll show you a little something here. So, not only they have the trading platform, they have like kind of a content section of their website. So, collectable.com. This is pretty cool. So, Ezra did an awesome write-up here. It kind of talking about how volatility impacts cards versus S&P and all that stuff. So he did a kind of an interesting comparison. He took 2008, which was also kind of a turbulent time in the market. He took 2020, another turbulent time. And what he's showing here, and maybe if you have an opinion, feel free to share. Here's 5,100. Here is PWCC 500, right? Here it is. Here's gold. Here's NASDAQ and S&P. And it actually shows that during turbulent times, cards, higher end cards, of course, the PWCC 500 higher end cards, they're actually not as volatile as the market. They're a safe place to park your money during volatile times. So if you have any interest in that, if that's something that you want to look at, now at the same time, volatility cuts both ways, and we look for volatility. Go have a read. So this is sports collectibles are and have long been a resilient asset class.
Like it. Yeah, I mean, listen, what you have to be able to be is a little patient with a little bit of a longer term view, right? We talk about this stuff week over week. And last week, we probably were talking about how Mahomes cards might go up. This week, you talk about how Mahomes cards might go down. A couple weeks ago, we talked about how Tom Brady cards might be going up. Maybe he wins another Super Bowl. And now it's like, okay, look, they're taking a little bit of a drop. But if you wide view this over the course of how long we've been doing this stuff, some of the things that were down are now up. Some of the things that were up are now down. And if you look at it, you can kind of, over a longer view, avoid a lot of that up and down and just see that up and down, but slowly but surely it's got that type of a line, which is exactly what you saw on that chart you just showed. So yeah, I mean, I love it. I mean, there are cards that I own that just are slow churners, right? And I buy them because you have to balance off if you're going to take a risk on something like Zion, on whether he comes back or not. You balance that out with some all-time great, right? Some Ken Griffey Jr. cards or whatever it may be, and while those cards are not going to go up because he's not going to come out this year and hit 70 home runs, they have slowly but surely done one of these kind of things, and it balances out those riskier plays. So I love the thought. I really do.
Luca Nation, we love you. We love doing the show. We want to say a quick thank you to Collectable, Alex, Marino, Ezra, the team. Top to bottom, true pros. We love working with you guys. Community, thank you guys for listening. Every day we hit record highs. Every day in 2020, honestly, more and more listeners. And I don't know what that's from, but we appreciate it. You guys that have been in the community for a while, welcome the newer listeners. Send them some love. We really, really appreciate it. We're building something special here. And we're just talking with our team as I was kind of complaining about the Chiefs, but like we have a group chat and we want to set the standard of, what the hobby's about, honesty, transparency, taking care of your neighbor, paying it forward. And it's not just about us. So I hope you guys can kind of help us with that vision and that journey. And let's keep building for the future, man. I got to say one last thank you. It's to you, man. You do a good job of letting me run and be kind of crazy and ambitious and try to build this thing into the Barstool Sports Cards, while also reeling me in and being like, let's just get this done right now. So
an episode a day, and today we did two, but this one is fun. And guys, listen, there's fun stuff there, right? There's a lot of cool information, and you can always message if you're listening to this. You can always message Andrew and myself. You want to, a little deeper dive into some of the information that we have out there, some of the research that we did. Why we look at one card over another, or what our takes are. Send us a message on Instagram. No problem. We'll answer. Take care, everybody.
Love you,